Even a fine woman can seek solitude in times of grief. Even a good marriage can come undone. Taylor missed them both dearly. His wife, Maggie, now sleeping in Port Bradley on the Victorian mainland, and his daughter, Claire. Taylor winced at the night cry of another devil. Clutching his hands together, he found himself studying them in the dim light, suddenly realizing he didn't recognize them anymore. They were the same hands that once caressed his wife's body, the same hands that held his newborn child, yet he didn't know them. He held them up close to his face. They seemed much older, much weaker. Hell, he didn't recognize himself anymore. More than anything, he just wanted things to be the way they were. But that wasn't possible, not without Claire. His love for his family was so strong it hurt. "So what are you doing down here alone on this rock?" he asked himself. It wasn't the first time he asked that question since Claire's disappearance, and he still couldn't answer it. Maybe the day he could would be the day he'd go home. Yeah, home, he thought. Even the word seemed distant. Taylor stepped away from the window, desperate for dawn's light to appear, for the sun's warmth to touch his face. After all, it was only the promise of day that made the nights bearable. His ankle ached from when he twisted it while sleepwalking a few hours earlier. The episodes were growing more frequent, the walks longer, taking him further, leaving him more and more weary each day. And always a part of the dreams, always looking for Claire. In his dreams he saw her in the red parka she wore the day she disappeared in the snow. Closing his eyes, he could still see her red form starkly contrasted against the white hills, moving away from him, leaving nothing but tracks in the snow and the warmth of her kiss on his cold cheek. Away forever. He needed to talk. He cried instead. Restless, he moved around the cottage, turning every light on, sitting, standing, pacing, the tears turning cold on his face. Finally, composed, he returned to the bedroom and picked up the telephone by the bed to dial Maggie's number. There was no point in trying his mobile, because there was no reception anywhere in the basin, not until well up in the high country or out on the highway. But Taylor appreciated the solitude this maintained, a way of shielding himself against any unwanted calls. Anyone calling on the cottage phone was either Parks and Wildlife checking on him, or the few others he'd given the number to, like Maggie. The phone was an old black Bakelite from the 50s, the numbers on its dial almost illegible, its mouthpiece smelling of stale tobacco. Everything in the ranger's cottage was old, the musty scent of generations in every corner. It made him wonder what he would contribute to the smells and textures after he was gone. His footprint there was minimal. His past taped up in the boxes stored in the spare room where they'd probably remain. Taylor checked his watch again, beginning to feel guilty at calling Maggie so early in the morning. He counted the tones and tried to picture her apartment at Port Bradley. He could imagine the sound bouncing off the rendered walls, sense a stirring from Maggie's neighbours as they rolled over and looked at their alarm clocks, swearing under their breaths at the early morning intrusion resonating through the dry wall. It seemed to ring forever. Disappointed, he hung up and lay down on the bed. Just as his head touched the pillow, the phone began to ring. It had an odd sound, like a phone in an old movie. He rolled over and picked up. "Hello?" he said. There was a note of desperation in his voice, something he hadn't anticipated. "Please be Maggie." The person on the other end finished yawning. "Taylor?" Maggie's voice filled him with both a sense of relief for its familiarity and a sense of dread at not wanting to disappoint her. "Don't fuck this up," he reminded himself. "Yeah," he said. "Hi, Maggie." "Hi," she said sleepily. "Did you just call?" "Uh-huh," he said, then quickly added,